Skylar Croy, who's actually Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, he's an attorney there, has been working on this, talking about the unconstitutionality of this bill. Just sort of top of mind, what are your thoughts on the sort of irregular process this seems to be going through?
Well, thanks for having me on, Vicki. And I have several just off the top of my head. So first off, to pull this out of committee tomorrow in the Senate, it's going to require a 2/3 vote. And that's going to take a lot, not only the Republicans in the Senate, but it's going to take them working with Democrats to do that. And just so your listeners understand, that's very unusual because the Republicans had generally for a long time had a rule and a policy that if they don't have enough votes among their own members, they don't do something like that. If they are able to pass the ROFR bill tomorrow, which again is just a straight ROFR bill, it doesn't have this extra stuff in it, it is going to probably, I would think, put pressure on the Assembly to potentially do the same thing, even though the Assembly had been working on this kind of, it's not ROFR, but it is ROFR bill to cover up a lot of this stuff. So the biggest thing that I want to just emphasize for all your listeners is this is very procedurally unusual, and it doesn't seem to me as just an outside observer that the Assembly leadership and the Senate leadership are working together on this, which is
okay. Well, that could potentially be a good thing, or it could also potentially be something that we aren't foreseeing. So I can see this be, let's pass it if the Democrats really, really want it, because none of the Republicans want it. So if it's the Democrats that really want to give the utilities a complete monopoly and give them, claim on $2 billion, which of course is going to balloon up in costs, if they want to do that, then are the Republicans trading something for, the hammer? Is it to try to force the Assembly into passing just a simple ROFR bill? And there's not enough Republicans to do it there either. The Republicans that are in support of it were in support of it when they could claim it was something other than what it was. So that would seem to, to take that opportunity to hide away from them. Or is it, I don't know, is it a way to get ROFR to fail, to get the Assembly version of WERA to become the Senate version? The whole reason that we're even spending time on this is because a bunch of lobbyists want a monopoly in Wisconsin. I can't even believe that this is rising to the level of being introduced.
Well, and Vicki, another point that I want to make very clear for all your listeners, I think the message right now needs to be that whatever happens tomorrow in the Senate, and if something happens next week or the week after in the Assembly, there needs to be a roll call vote on this. There needs to be accountability. We need names. I need names next to up, down votes on this. And one of the other fears I have is that however this gets pushed through, whether it starts in the Senate, starts in the Assembly, whatever ends up happening with this, there's going to be an attempt, I think, to do this by a voice vote that obscures all of us and our ability to know who actually at the end of the day supported this.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a big problem.
So then you don't get to say this Republican, this Democrat. It's just going to be a voice vote. There's nobody writes down the names. That is so sleazy, but that is the expectation. I want to walk people through that. If this thing becomes law in Wisconsin, you are confident, you are highly confident it is just plain unconstitutional, aren't you?
Yes, not only unconstitutional, but just to make sure everyone understands the problem here. It's from a policy perspective, it's going to increase rates. That's really at the end of the day what this is going to do. It's going to be an excuse for the already existing utility monopolies to jack up rates because they're going to be able to say, well, we spent all this money on this project, and then the Public Service Commission is going to rubber stamp the rate increase. And right now, the way it would work is that there'd be a competitive bidding process, and whoever was the lowest bidder would get it. But they want to kill competitive bidding so that they don't have to compete against anyone. So it's going to jack up rates, and this is unconstitutional because what it's going to do is discriminate against companies that exist out of state, for example, on the borders of Minnesota, Iowa, Michigan, who want to come and bid on those contracts. And they're not going to have an opportunity to do that.
There's an executive order on point as well. So we've got an executive order. Trump is sort of, foreseeing this kind of shenanigans. It's unconstitutional. It will raise rates. However, here's my question to you as a lawyer. So it does all these things, right? It violates the executive order. It violates the Constitution. It's manifestly, corrupt. It's going, all of these bad things. And let's say you win. Can you claw back the $2 billion, the $1.7 billion? Can you do that? Let's say it goes into law and then you're like, no, we got a court case here. What do you think the odds are of you being able to stop the project cold before dollars are dispersed in order to try to work this case through the court system?
Unfortunately, I think it's very low. I think it's very low. I think that they'll start building projects immediately. There'll be lots and lots of money expended. And by the time we get a court to actually take a look at this, because as you know, Vicki, a court case can take a year plus. In fact, a year would actually be a pretty short court case. A lot of times they take 2 years. And even if you got to the end of all that and you got a court to say, well, going forward, we're not going to do any of this shenanigans anymore, I think the probability that the court would claw anything back is very low.
Zero. I think the probability of the court would claw anything back is zero. That's what I think. And let's just say they clawed some back. Who would be on the hook for it? The utilities would pass along any penalty, all lawyers' fees, to ratepayers. What else would they do? Where would they get the money, Skylar?
Well, you're exactly right. This is all going to come back to ratepayers. The legal bills are going to come back to ratepayers. The increased cost of the projects because they're killing competitive bidding are going to come back to the ratepayers. That's who is going to pay for all of this at the end of the day. Because again, that's how they make their money. That's the only way they make their money.
That's why if this passes, it fails. For us, we are the ones that are on the hook for the whole kit and caboodle. Right now they're like, yeah, so what? I mean, this is the attitude here. So the question is, if tomorrow it passes on a voice vote, what is the future of it in the assembly? I mean, we'll still have a chance to fight, in the assembly because it takes 2 houses. But at that point, you've got to think the fix is in. If it can pass tomorrow, then you've got to think the fix is in. Let's everybody just hold our noses and do it. We'll all do it on a voice vote. Figure people will forget come election time. And then we can tell them that all of the jacked up increased rates are all Tony Evers' fault, right?
Well, maybe that's what they're thinking. I do think if this passes in the Senate tomorrow, that's going to put a lot of pressure on the leadership of the Assembly, Robin Vos and others, to just go along with it. Again, along voice vote. And my hope is that everyone puts pressure on their representatives, and at a minimum, even if they're going to do this, because maybe we can't stop them from doing this. There does need to be accountability on this voice vote versus roll call vote. I mean, that's just insane. The idea that we're not even going to be able to know at the end of the day who actually supported this, despite how controversial it's been, despite everyone knowing it's controversial. That's just a total attempt to obstruct our ability as voters to hold people accountable.
Well, this is one of those times, folks. Go to the Wisconsin.gov, who's my legislator. You can just click on it. Make sure you know who your state senator is and say you'd better be voting no on this and you better demand a roll call vote. I appreciate the time, Skylar, as I always do. Thank you so much for joining me.